You are on the brink of panic. You're about to have a panic attack. Your anxiety is completely out of control. You're like, dang, am I gonna be alone forever? You're asking yourself, do you think that this text was bad? Maybe you're asking AI. Maybe you're asking one of your trusted friends. Or you're gonna make an appointment with your doctor, or you're gonna have an appointment with your therapist to talk about what you can do to make sure that this situation is completely under control and it never happens again, because you don't wanna be single for the rest of your life. You don't want to be alone. You've been rejected before. You don't want to get rejected again. Why is it that they're doing this? Don't they know that you're traumatized right now? These are some of the things that you're asking yourself, looking at your phone, checking your email, checking Facebook, looking at their Facebook. There's so many things that are going on to quiet the neurochemicals after a breakup. Well, let's talk about what happens when you get this text message or the lack thereof. You just went through a breakup, you try to go to sleep, maybe take a sleeping medication, maybe you didn't eat well, maybe you drank a little bit the night before. Regardless, you wake up early. You're looking for this text message, it doesn't come, and you gotta figure out a way to control your stress response, which is the worst part of the neurobiology of resentment that leads to all kinds of problems at the end of the day, including a heart attack and stroke. When you look at this text message, or like I said, lack thereof, that response goes right to the amygdala. From there, you have a couple of things that happen. One is a signal goes from the hypothalamus down to the adrenal medulla, which releases catecholamines and that fight or flight response. Your heart rate increases, you're more stressed, you're more anxious, you're on edge. The epinephrine, norepinephrine, and adrenaline skyrocket. From the hypothalamus also, there's a signal that goes to the anterior pituitary, corticotropin releasing hormone. From the anterior pituitary, adrenocorticotropin hormone, to the adrenal cortex, which releases cortisol. When cortisol increases, you have inflammation. Gluconeogenesis takes place, and this is where people will feel bloated. At the end of the day, they'll gain more weight in areas that they don't want to. They look older than they actually are. Ages, which is advanced glycation end products, decreases elastin, which gives you good skin. It decreases collagen in the long run, which is chronic inflammation, makes people look older. You get overweight. You need to figure out a way to quiet this down because the prefrontal cortex is not engaged. You got this text message, this problem that happens, you don't get this exclamation point, you don't get the desired response, amygdala, then it goes down, increases cortisol, epinephrine, you need dopamine to quiet that down because you have not engaged the prefrontal cortex. What would it look like for you to engage the prefrontal cortex and undergo dopamine devotion, or delayed dopamine, or dopamine consecration? I surrender. Whoever it is that you pray to, God, Lord, Shiva, Vishnu, Buddha, Allah, Jesus, or a higher power. You're like, look, what can I do to just figure out a way to delay the dopamine? Here is a technique that you can do where you don't need me. You don't need to use my process. You don't need me. You don't need a doctor. You don't need a therapist. Who's here? There's nobody here besides my pets. Look at Jay. Oh, look at the kid, Mars. Look at him right over there. That's a kanker. Paputane. You're like, how do I get the delayed dopamine? Like I said, you don't need my process. You don't need a coach, a doctor, a therapist, a medication. You don't need a community. You don't need family. You don't need friends. You don't need a partner supporting you to get dopamine delay. Look who's here. Nobody's here. If I can do it, you can too. Quiet the amygdala, engage the prefrontal cortex by writing. What are you going to write? Imagine the power that you're going to release if you just say you accept the situation for what it is. Even if there's a 1% reduction, it's for free. You don't need anybody. I'm going to embrace it. That's all you got to say. No saying, you got to write. We're talking about the neurobiology of low self-esteem, low confidence, and self-hatred after a breakup. when you do engage the prefrontal cortex, you'll decrease cortisol, And then when you're doing it for yourself, you're going to develop this steady state of serotonin. And when you do, you don't need anybody to say you validated. You're just like, look, I just accepted it. There's nothing to do with that. There's nothing to do in the practice of mind hygiene. You can view the mind hygiene study. There will be a link in the description to it. There, we talk about the neurobiology and the neurochemicals behind accepting and embracing your mind by writing it down. At least every 90 minutes, you're going through a tough time. Why can't you just write for 1 to 90 seconds every 90 minutes? It's free reduction. You don't need anybody. And then what happens is that you develop this oxytocin bond with yourself. You're like, I did it. So now you have an oxytocin bond with yourself. Granted, I do have an oxytocin bond with my cat, Ajay, oh yeah, he's purring. Can you hear it? ಅಷ್ಟು ಮುದ್ದಾಗಿದೆಯಾ ನೀನು ಅಷ್ಟು ಮುದ್ದಾಗಿದೆಯಾ ನೀನು ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಎಷ್ಟು ಮುದ್ದಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ. There is an oxytocin bond that I have with my pets, but I do also with my writing as well. Not only does that happen, not only do you decrease the cortisol by writing, you will increase that steady state of oxytocin. You will also decrease the epinephrine and norepinephrine response, that fight or flight, and decrease cortisol, and thereby you will be able to validate yourself. You'll be able to love yourself. You won't be resenting yourself as much. You won't be depending on a text message, on a Facebook post, on a friend, on an ex, maybe going back online, dating. I mean, are you the type of person who has like 5 people waiting? Are you the type of person who's like, this is the number 1, this is the number 2, this is number 3, but you don't even know it because the behavior is so mindless. You don't even know what's going on in your mind. You don't even know what your mission, vision, purpose is when it comes to dating. When you break up, you got to fix it. You got to hurry up. The neurobiologic warfare is on full display for only a few seconds until you may eat something, drink something, talk to somebody, call up an ex, or go back online, or hope that your partner gets back with you and goes on a date. You don't want this neurobiologic warfare. You want neuro-spiritual sovereignty. This is a 3-part series where in the first part we talked about what do you believe about yourself after a breakup. This video we talked about the neurobiology of resentment after a breakup. In our last video we'll talk about how to rebuild self-belief after a breakup.